day, everyone. Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for those new listeners out there, I just want to share with you what this podcast is about. It's about individuals who are ready, really ready to move forward in their lives, individuals that are stuck. There's something that else you would like to do, but you've not been able to do it. So therefore, we want to mitigate those self-imposed barriers that's preventing you from living your best life on your terms. And we talk about topics related to business and personal development, and also some self-reflection. And today we have a special guest on, and the title is How Do I Become a Friend with My Mind? And I think that is unbelievable. A friend with your mind, and you know how the mind is, right? It's like a battlefield. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about this. And our special guest is Sondra Harper. Hi, Sondra.
Hi there, Cassandra.
Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking before we came on board, listeners. I'm Cassandra and she's Sondra, and some people call me Cassandra. And so they asked the question, are you Cassan or Cassan? And I always say, I'm Cassan. So when I saw her name, I thought about what people always ask me. Well, let's get into the podcast. I want to read a little bit about Sondra so that you just get to know a little bit about her background before we dive into the interview. Okay, Sondra is an author, a yoga, she called it yogini, but I can say yoga teacher, and a fervent advocate for transforming lives through mindfulness and self-inquiry. Her journey spans over 15 years of daily meditation practice and a long, happy marriage, nurturing two wonderful children and triumphing over cancer, anger, self-doubt, and anxiety. The cornerstone of all her teaching lies in the four noble attitudes. And let me read those: friendliness, joy, compassion, and non-judgment. Wow, this is going to be real good. We're definitely going to find out how to become our friend with our mind, because the mind plays a whole lot in regards to being stuck and these self-imposed barriers, these negative self-beliefs, and all of that. And she also has like what I call signature topics. Like she talks about unhelpful thought loops, practicing friendliness, managing anxiety, being your authentic self, also being resilient in any circumstance, and breath work and meditation. So, Sondra, before we get really deep inside of what Sondra is about, I want you to share your backstory. Like, what was life like before your journey in yoga and mindfulness? What was going on then?
Oh, well, I've always been a seeker, and so I've just been fascinated with how the mind works and the body. And I think I was searching for something. I've been I was raised Judeo-Christian, still
Mm-hmm.
practicing, and so I have that background with my folks, and that's always been helpful as a base for me. So,
Okay. So, did
mhm.
your cancer and your anger and self doubt have anything to do with you pivoting over to the mindfulness and yoga?
Yeah, it's like, I guess I was just feeling a lot of anxiety and fear, especially when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, because I was like, oh, I don't want to leave my children. And what do I do? How do I overcome this disease? And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I sought a path that was like introspective, and looked at my own thought patterns and my own behaviors and identities, as opposed to looking external for
Mm,
something to fix me.
right.
So, mhm,
So you realize it was something internal.
something internal. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, when I was reading about your experiences when you visited India, describe describe that. When I was reading that, I don't know if you're familiar with the book called Eat, Pray, and Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. It your trajectory somewhat reminded me of her. She had, I think she had gotten a divorce, and so she decided to just quit her job and go to India. She went to many places to find herself. So what was your experience like when you visited India?
Well, the first time I went to India was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Mahakumbh Mela, which is on the banks of the Ganges. It's in Allahabad, and I guess it was eye-opening. First of all, their culture is very different than ours,
Mm-hmm.
and secondly, um, just seeing different cultures always upends the identities you have around how life should be or how other people should be. So it softened me in a way I wasn't aware I was hard. Like, um, you know, people live on much, much less there.
Mm.
We use a bathtub full of water to
Yeah.
bathe, and that in some places in India, that bathtub full of water might be water for somebody for an entire week.
Wow.
So
Okay.
give some perspective on just how blessed we are to be in this country having fresh drinking water. We're safe for the most part here.
Mm-hmm.
We can get to the grocery store. There's food there for us. There's many programs for people who may not have enough food or water.
Mm.
Um, and it's not like that all over the world. And
Yeah.
so that opened my eyes. Just the cultural aspect opened my eyes. And yet, even though some of them I noticed had been very poor, they were so happy. They
Yeah.
were not, they were unencumbered by all of it, and they just were so grateful to have what they
Yeah.
had. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that really touched my heart and impacted me in a positive way.
So what made you go back to India? Like, you didn't go just one time.
Mm-mm.
So, mm-hmm.
Because I have a teacher, his name's Pandit Rajmani Tiganayat. He
Uh-huh.
is the spiritual head of the Himalayan Institute in Pennsylvania, and they
Okay.
also they have grounds in Khajuraho, India, and they take groups to India to sacred sites and
Mm-hmm.
to practice meditation and mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to you have an interest. You talked about Himalayan. What made you have an interest in that? Like, what piqued your interest?
In meditation,
Yeah.
I guess because I was like, oh, you mean I can apply concepts and principles to myself with my breathing and focus my mind to be calm, clear, and tranquil, and
Mm-hmm.
it will transform me? And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out of the mind that isn't helpful. And
Okay.
so that was, I want pain. Yeah,
Right.
mental pain is what made me go for wanting something different. So
Okay.
that's what meditation gave me. It did that which nothing else can do. Meditation introduces you to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm often, I've been hearing about meditation for years, and I had no one to teach me. I would look at it on YouTube or read about it, and I would try to meditate, but my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, my mind was all over the place. And people, would say, well, if you can stay focused, and it's amazing what meditation will do for your mind, your body, and your soul. Why do some people have problems meditating? Did I need an instructor, or to be trained on it, or why is that difficult for some?
Well, I needed help. I needed an instructor, and I needed a systematic way, step by step. And I also needed other people who were trying to do what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
trying to calm their mind. It's like the monkey mind that goes everywhere and does everything. How do
Right,
you get that monkey under control?
right, right, exactly. So, in other words, I need to be trained.
Training helps. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Could you would you expand on the four attitudes? I'm really interested in the friendliness, the joy, compassion, and non-judgment, and I'm certain that relates a lot to how do I become a friend with my mind?
Well, and that's what my book is about, is that our oftentimes we think of friends as external.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but becoming friends with your own mind and your
Mm-hmm.
own inner self, that's a gentle process. It's done through time and systematically. And like sometimes just being nice to yourself can help in the moments when you might be like, oh, I'm not doing this right, or I don't understand that. And just, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can just be kind to myself.
Okay, okay. You have to excuse me. That's my fur baby. That's in his cage, but he's howling. I guess he's trying to get my attention and yours too, and my listeners. So this isn't the first time my listeners have heard him, and it may be the first time for some of them. So, so how do you become a friend to yourself? I know we have
Well,
friends, but how does that happen?
well, how it happened for me is I learned how to breathe properly.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think, well, why does that have anything to do with friendship? Well, because there's only three things that are with you from the moment you're born until you take your last breath. And that's your body, your breath, and your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And learning how to link your mind and your breathing together. The
Mm-hmm.
mind is elusive and it can move all over the place and it does a lot of things and it thinks and it rotates. But your breathing is something that's really intimate to you. And it's right here, right now. Everybody breathes.
Right.
So I learned how to breathe properly. That was the first step.
Okay. So once you breathe properly, then how does that help you become a friend?
Because then you can slow your mind down and
Okay.
start to be with your own self and
Okay.
ask contemplate
Okay.
who is the one of me that needs the most friendship. um, why is friendliness important? What does it actually mean to be friendly to myself? So it's like you can get some space.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know about my, when, let's say we're highly emotional or we're really um, down on ourselves, it's good to consider what's your breathing doing in those states.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you holding in? Are you exhaling and holding out?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not breathing very much?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you inhale, but you exhale like maybe like anger that you have or worry or
Sure,
self-doubt. You can do that as well.
you sure can.
Okay.
And
So
let go.
right, you can let go. So it contributes to emotional resilience.
Absolutely. You got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Okay. Okay.
connects you to yourself. It connects you to the present moment so that you're not in your memory or your past or your future. You're right here.
Okay. So doing that transforms your life.
It does. And
Okay.
little by little, a little becomes a lot.
Okay. So in what ways has your life transformed? And I'm asking because perhaps the meditation, we haven't spoken about yoga yet. But how does that transform your life when you do those things? What happens?
Hmm. I just become kinder to myself over time. And I also become more aware, and I'm able to meet situations with more resources.
Mm-hmm.
I become more resilient. So if something happens in the external world, maybe that I might be difficult, I can move through it with more grace.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So you talked about how you can learn a lot about yourself through the work that you do. So what have you learned? Like what will people learn? Do they learn how to learn maybe who they are, why they like they are, or learn how to get unstuck, or what do people learn
They
about them?
definitely learn how to get unstuck, and it gives them some space between some of their unconscious patterning
Mm,
or behaviors that they might have, both in a business or in a personal life, in a relationship.
mm-hmm.
It gives them space so that then they can have maybe more awareness around it, which what we know is choice is better than no choice.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating to me. So just being quiet. Well, tell me about yoga. I know a lot of people do that. And what are the benefits of doing yoga?
Mm, well, I mean, there's health benefits
Okay.
because you slow, you slow your breathing down and
Mm-hmm.
your central nervous system can calm down. So
Mm-hmm.
then you're not in that fight or flight situation with your nervous system where this kind of frenetic situation is happening constantly and you're not aware of it. So it can slow that down. It can slow, what if you have racing thoughts? It can help. And I would just invite your listeners, just like breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It can slow thoughts down so that then you're able to, like, okay, I can make a different choice, when maybe in the
Mm-hmm.
past you had made one choice because you weren't calm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, I remember when I was going to therapy. I've been going to therapy off and on for quite some time. And I remember my therapist telling me that one of the things that I should do is come home to self. And
Mhm.
I never really understood that. And I'm hopeful that, when do you tell a person that? And why do you tell a person that? And how do you come home to self? Why would
we have
someone
a
say that?
um, we have a beautiful practice called Aharna Pranayama, and that is coming home to self.
Mm-hmm.
It brings your awareness of yourself right back to you in present moment and your breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of you is back, rather than just all out thinking about what's happened in the day or what happened in the past, or you're back home. And your home, as I understand it, is within you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when she said come home to self, I should have come to my physical home and maybe started doing a breathing exercise or meditating, and that brings me back to myself.
It's one way to come home for sure.
Yeah, because I thought I was being myself. So
But
I'm
if
just
you are being parts of yourself always. We're always being ourselves,
right,
to the best of our abilities.
right. So So why would somebody say that to a person? It's time for you to come home to self. Like what characteristics are people doing to make someone say that to them? Like why would you say that? Like you said, you went to an institute or somewhere where they said come back to yourself. Why would people say that to a person? What are they observing about that person? What behavior is that person having for somebody to say that?
Hmm, that's a good question. What do you think it is?
I have no idea. I don't know. That's why I was asking.
Um, well, there's all the things that happen to us and all the things happening around us.
Mm-hmm.
And um, sometimes we can get really tied up in the external world.
Mm-hmm.
And coming home to self would say, okay, I'm going to allow the world to be whatever it is, and I'm going to come back to my own heart and mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So, how does one escape unhelpful thinking? We have this negative thought. So, what are some things that you can do to mitigate negative self talk?
Breathing helps. and
Okay.
practicing the 4 attitudes. So what's interesting is, gratitude and friendliness
Mm-hmm.
are like the antidotes to animosity that
Mm-hmm.
happens. I just recently taught a retreat called Alchemize Your Life, and it was all about the things that create contaminants in our mind, and one of them is animosity. And
Mm.
so when we practice, okay, I have these thoughts, this is happening. How do I use friendliness and compassion in my daily life? Well, first I
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm grateful to be human. I'm grateful to have a life, and start with gratitude. That's the very first step. What are you
Okay.
grateful for?
Okay. Okay. So how do you start your day? Like what's your daily safe self-care?
Okay, I get up and I brush my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I move my body a little, um, just a little bit of movement. And then I sit down and I drink some tea and I say thank you.
Okay.
Um, Thank you. And I practice meditation by just breathing deep. Sometimes I just sit
Okay.
there and breathe
Okay.
and if my thoughts arise, they just arise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just stay back with my breath. And it's not so much that I'm trying to do or get anywhere. It's more that I'm just being with my breathing.
Okay. So you do all of that before you start your day.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your self-care.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have one more question for you. And you talked about an institute that you've gone to, and you said that when they go to this Himalayan institute, that people realize their full potential when they attend, right? And one of the things that I focus on with my clients, and when I speak, I talk about unlocking your full potential. When people find out what their full potential is when they go to that institute, what do they do with what they've learned? Do you know of anybody that's done anything based on realizing what their full potential was?
Me. I
Okay.
wrote a book. I
Mhm.
and even my friend Shanti, like she attends the institute. She opened a yoga studio. She
Okay.
does a lot of selfless service in her communities. And
Mhm.
um, Jeff Abella, he does a lot. He lives there at the institute, but he also serves people in Africa. They have farms,
Mhm.
so they've done a lot of different things. Um, so full potential. Wow. Um, yeah, and that's the Himalayan Institute. It's in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Um, and they have all kinds of yoga and practices there.
Mhm. Okay, so it's basically yoga and meditation that he addresses or he practices, and as a result of that, people realize what their full potential is.
Sure, some of them do, yes, and some of them maybe they go with a broken heart, and that helps them overcome that.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
I want to share with my listeners if there's anything that Sondra said that you believe that's valuable, and friends, you have people that the meditation and yoga and everything. Do you have? You said you facilitated a retreat. Do you have clients or how do you get individuals engaged in what you do, or do you?
Yes, I do. I have both private sessions,
Mhm.
private coaching sessions for this, and then I also do Vishoka meditation, which there's one in April
Mhm.
um, that I'll do. It'll be both live and online.
Mhm.
That's the 18th. So
Okay. Okay.
And then I host retreats in different locations. When we're doing a retreat in Greece, Amorgos this year. So,
Any words of wisdom to share with my listeners that are stuck and they're not actually living their full potential? They're not living their best life on their terms. Anything that you could share that would help them get out of their way?
I would say find somebody who is doing or being some way that you want to be and get help.
Okay.
That really was helpful for me. Like, talk to Cassandra or to a teacher or to someone who has a program that you want to be a part of.
Okay. And how can people reach you?
They can go to the4attitudes.com.
And
there's a book book a call there. They can book a call with me, a discovery call for free.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sondra. And I just want to share with my listeners before we end this is that you know how to contact Sondra, and especially if you need meditation or want to talk about yoga, any of those things. She gave you it's called what's the name of the book?
The 4 Attitudes.
The 4 Attitudes. Okay. Well, Sondra, thank you so much, and I wish you the best in your endeavors. And my audience, thanks for listening, and bye for now. God bless you all.